The annual Patterson family reunion in Detroit was always a grand affair, but this year felt different. As I sat in the hotel's beautifully decorated conference room, gently rocking my 3-month-old daughter Jamie in my arms, I watched my husband Noah rehearsing his acceptance speech for the family's Legacy Award. The irony of him receiving an award for upholding family values wasn't lost on me, especially after what I'd discovered on his phone that morning. My name is Shannon, and at 31 I thought I had it all. A successful marriage, a beautiful baby, and a place in one of Detroit's most respected families. Noah was the golden boy of Patterson Industries, following in his father's footsteps as vice president of operations. Everyone praised us as the perfect couple, and I'd believed it too, until his phone buzzed during breakfast. He'd left it on the hotel room's desk while showering, and I normally wouldn't have looked, but the preview notification caught my eye. Missing you already. Last night was incredible. From someone named Kate P., executive assistant. With trembling hands and Jamie sleeping in her carrier, I'd opened his phone. His password was still our wedding date, something he'd apparently forgotten to change. What I found made my stomach turn. Hundreds of messages, photos, and even a planned trip to the Bahamas, all with Kate Parker, his new assistant. Now, watching him practice his speech about family loyalty and traditional values, I felt an eerie calm settle over me. The conference room's AV system was already set up for his presentation, including a large projector screen and the hotel's state-of-the-art video conferencing system. As an IT project manager, I understood exactly how these systems worked. "Shannon, dear," my mother-in-law Patricia called out, approaching with her perfectly coiffed hair and society smile. "Is everything ready for Noah's speech? This award means so much to the family." "Almost," I replied, adjusting Jamie's blanket. "Just need to check the technical setup one last time." Patricia beamed. "You're always so thorough. We're blessed to have you in the family." If she only knew what her precious son had been up to with his assistant, but she would soon enough. I'd noticed Kate's online status changed to available on Noah's phone. Right on schedule, she was probably expecting their usual morning video call. I stood up, placing Jamie in her grandmother's eager arms. "Would you mind watching her for a moment? I need to help Noah with the presentation setup." The conference room buzzed with activity as extended family members took their seats. Noah's younger sister Nicole was adjusting the flowers on the podium, while his father Robert, CEO of Patterson Industries, reviewed his introduction speech. The irony of them all preparing to celebrate Noah's integrity wasn't lost on me. I approached the AV control panel, Jamie's soft coos still audible from where she sat with Patricia. "Just double-checking the connections," I told the hotel's technician with a smile, watching him finish the setup. My IT background made the next steps crystal clear. The system was ready for any incoming video calls to display automatically on the main screen. Noah's phone buzzed again in my hand. Another message from Kate. "Can't wait for our morning check-in, handsome. I have a surprise for you, smiley face." I looked up at my husband, who was now greeting elderly relatives with that charming smile I'd once fallen for. He had no idea I'd seen their plans, how they'd discussed using his family connections to start their own company, how they'd laughed about me being too busy with the baby to notice anything. "5 minutes until we start," Robert announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to running board meetings. "Shannon, is everything set with the presentation?" "Almost perfect," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Just need Noah's phone to connect for the slideshow." Noah walked over, straightening his tie. "Here you go, honey," he said, handing me his phone without a second thought. "You're always better with the technical stuff." I connected his phone to the system, knowing that Kate would be calling any minute for their morning meeting. The same morning meeting that had been happening every day at 10 a.m., while I was busy with pediatrician appointments and client calls. "Everyone, please take your seats," Patricia called out, still holding Jamie. "We're about to celebrate a very special member of the Patterson family." The lights dimmed slightly, and Noah took his place at the podium. Robert stepped up to begin his introduction, speaking about family legacy and the importance of moral character in business. I sat in the front row, next to Patricia and Jamie, watching the small indicator light on the AV panel turn green. Kate was right on schedule. Her incoming video call would connect any second now. Noah cleared his throat, preparing to accept his award, completely unaware that his carefully constructed world was about to shatter. The Patterson name has always stood for integrity, Robert was saying, his voice filled with pride. And no one exemplifies our values better than my son, Noah. The large screen behind them suddenly flickered to life. Kate's face appeared, her blonde hair artfully tousled, wearing what was clearly not appropriate office attire. The entire room froze. "Hey, handsome," she purred, clearly not realizing she was broadcasting to a room full of people. "Missing you already. That quick meeting in your office this morning wasn't nearly enough." Noah's face drained of color. He spun around, finally seeing the screen, then turned back to stare at me in horror. I met his gaze steadily, bouncing Jamie gently on my knee. "I thought we could discuss those plans to break away from your father's company," Kate continued, adjusting her camera. "I've already started reaching out to some of Patterson Industries' clients. They're very interested in what we have to offer." Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. Robert's expression hardened as he heard his company's name. The room was dead silent except for Kate's voice and Jamie's quiet coos. "Your wife's obviously too busy with the baby to notice anything," Kate laughed. "And once we get your family's main investors on board—" "Kate, stop," Noah finally managed to croak out. She froze, finally noticing the background behind him. Her eyes widened as she took in the conference room, the family members, and me sitting calmly in the front row with his daughter. "Oh my God," she whispered, her face turning pale. The screen went black as she disconnected. Robert was the first to break the silence. "Son," he said, his voice cold, "my office. Now." "Shannon, I can explain—" Noah started, but I cut him off. "I think Kate explained everything quite clearly," I said, keeping my voice level. "Though I'm sure the board will be interested in hearing more about your plans to steal company clients." Patricia was crying silently, still clutching Jamie's diaper bag. Around us, family members were whispering, phones were being pulled out, and decades of Patterson reputation were crumbling in real time. I stood up, gathering Jamie's things. "I'll have my lawyer contact you," I told Noah, who seemed to have aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. "I'm sure you understand I'll be seeking full custody." As I walked out of the conference room, Jamie secure in my arms, I heard Robert addressing the stunned family members. "I apologize for this unfortunate situation. The Legacy Award ceremony is clearly postponed." I didn't look back. Sometimes karma doesn't need any help. It just needs the right stage to reveal the truth. The next 48 hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. I moved into a suite at a different hotel with Jamie, ignoring the constant stream of calls and messages from Noah. By Monday morning, the incident had already sent shockwaves through Detroit's business community. I sat in my lawyer's office, Jamie sleeping peacefully in her carrier, as Jessica Anderson laid out our strategy. "Patterson Industries board has called an emergency meeting," she said, shuffling through documents. "Apparently, several clients have already come forward, confirming that Kate Parker approached them about moving their business to a new venture." "Which means Noah wasn't just cheating on me?" I replied, keeping my voice low to avoid waking Jamie. "He was actively plotting corporate espionage." Jessica nodded. "Robert Patterson called. He wants to meet with you privately before the board meeting." I wasn't surprised. Robert had built Patterson Industries from the ground up, turning it into one of Detroit's most respected companies. The scandal wasn't just a family matter anymore. It threatened the business itself. An hour later, I sat across from Robert in his corner office, Jamie still sleeping soundly beside me. The city skyline stretched out behind him, a view Noah had once hoped would be his. "Shannon," Robert began, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "First, I want to apologize. What Noah and that woman did is unforgivable, both to you and to this company." I nodded, waiting. Robert hadn't built an empire by being sentimental. We've frozen Noah's accounts and access, he continued. Kate Parker has been terminated, and our legal team is preparing action against both of them. But we have another issue to discuss. He slid a folder across his desk. Inside were details of several major client accounts, ones I'd helped secure through my IT consulting work. These clients are threatening to leave, Robert said, not because of the scandal, but because you were their primary technical contact. They trust you. I had worked with many of Patterson Industries' clients, modernizing their systems while Noah took the credit. The irony wasn't lost on me. What are you proposing? I asked, although I already had an idea. We'd like to offer you a position as Chief Technology Officer, Robert replied. The board agrees we need someone with your expertise, especially now. Your integrity and skills are exactly what this company needs to move forward. I glanced at Jamie, thinking about her future. And Noah? His shares will be bought out at minimum value, per the company bylaws regarding ethical violations. He'll be lucky if he avoids criminal charges for attempting to steal trade secrets. Robert's expression hardened. The Patterson name stands for something in this city. He forgot that. You never did. Jamie stirred in her carrier, and I gently rocked her back to sleep. The position Robert was offering would mean security for her future, but it was more than that. It was a chance to build something meaningful from the ashes of Noah's betrayal. I'll need to review the contract with my lawyer, I said finally, and I want a seat on the board. Robert smiled for the first time since the reunion. Already included. We're not losing you to another company, Shannon. Unlike my son, I recognize true value when I see it. The news broke in the Detroit Business Journal the following morning. Patterson Industries announces new CTO amid family scandal. The article was diplomatic but clear. Noah's attempted corporate espionage had failed, and the company was emerging stronger under new leadership. I was reviewing resumes for my technical team when Nicole, Noah's sister, appeared in my new office doorway. She looked uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot. I just saw Noah in the lobby, she said. He's trying to get past security. Says he needs to talk to Dad about his shares. I continued scanning the resume in front of me. That's not my concern anymore. Security has their instructions. Nicole moved closer, glancing at Jamie sleeping in her portable crib near my desk. He looks terrible, Shannon. Kate apparently took off with most of their money. The Bahamas trip they planned? She went without him, emptied their joint account. Karma works in interesting ways, I replied, making a note on a promising candidate's application. Did you need something specific, Nicole? I have a board meeting in 30 minutes. She sank into the chair across from me. I can't believe he threw everything away. The family name, his marriage, his relationship with Jamie. A commotion in the hallway interrupted her. Noah's voice carried through the open door. I have every right to be here. That's my family's company. I pressed the intercom. Security, please escort Mr. Patterson from the building. And Nicole. I turned to my former sister-in-law. You might want to remind your brother that his restraining order covers this office. Nicole nodded sadly and left. Through my window, I watched Noah being led to the parking lot, his once immaculate suit wrinkled, his golden boy confidence shattered. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, my lawyer. Kate Parker spotted in Miami. Local authorities notified regarding the corporate theft charges. I muted the phone as Robert walked in, carrying a stack of files. Ready for the board meeting? We're announcing the new cybersecurity division today. Just finished reviewing candidates for the team, I replied, gathering my materials. Also, Noah was here. Robert's expression darkened. I saw. The board's voting on officially removing him as a shareholder this afternoon. His little scheme with Ms. Parker violated every clause in his contract. As we walked to the boardroom, employees nodded respectfully. Many were my new hires, young tech professionals eager to help modernize Patterson Industries. In just 3 weeks, we'd launched 2 new digital initiatives that had already attracted major clients. Shannon, Robert paused outside the boardroom. I know this can't be easy, running into Noah like that. If you need time. I adjusted Jamie's carrier on my arm. What I need is to focus on moving this company forward. Noah and Kate's drama isn't my concern anymore. Inside, the board members were already seated. These were the same people who used to dismiss me as just Noah's wife. Now they looked to me for leadership. Let's begin, I said, taking my seat at the table. We have a company to run. The quarterly investors' meeting fell exactly 1 month after the family reunion incident. I stood at the podium presenting our new technology initiatives to a packed conference room, the same room where Noah's deception had been exposed. Our cybersecurity division has already secured contracts with 3 major financial institutions, I explained, gesturing to the growth charts behind me. Patterson Industries is positioned to become a leader in financial technology protection. In the back of the room, a television played silently, tuned to a local news channel. I noticed a few board members glancing at it during my presentation, and when I turned to change slides, I saw why. Kate Parker's face was on the screen, being led into a Miami courthouse in handcuffs. Without missing a beat, I continued my presentation. Our second quarter projections show a 40% increase in tech sector revenue. Later in my office, Robert filled me in on the details. She tried to sell proprietary information to one of our competitors. Unfortunately for her, they have more integrity than she does. They contacted us immediately. And Noah? I asked, organizing reports on my desk while Jamie played with her toys in her corner of the office. Still claiming he knew nothing about her attempts to steal company secrets, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Robert handed me a folder. The FBI found these in Kate's apartment. Inside were detailed notes about Patterson Industries' clients, including information that only Noah would have had access to. There were also emails outlining their plan to start a competing company using stolen data and connections. The board's lawyers estimate he's looking at significant legal consequences, Robert continued, both civil and criminal. I closed the folder. That's not my concern anymore. Have you seen the proposal from the tech startup in Singapore? Before Robert could respond, my assistant stepped in. Mrs. Patterson. She caught herself. Ms. Kennedy, sorry. The developers are ready for the new system test. Thank you, Evelyn. I stood up, gathering my tablet. Robert, we can discuss Singapore over dinner. Patricia's still coming to watch Jamie, right? He nodded, smiling at his granddaughter. She's the only good thing that came from all this. As I headed to the development floor, I passed the wall of company photos. The old one showing Noah and me at last year's charity gala had been replaced with a new image. Me speaking at a tech conference, announcing Patterson Industries' digital transformation initiative. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Former executive assistant pleads guilty to corporate espionage, faces up to 15 years. Below it was another message, this one from Noah's lawyer, attempting yet again to negotiate terms for his shares. I archived both notifications without reading further. The development team was waiting, and we had actual work to do. The company's future wasn't going to build itself. Okay, team, I said, entering the conference room filled with eager young developers. Show me what you've got. 1 year after the family reunion incident, I stood in my office overlooking downtown Detroit, Jamie playing with blocks at her little desk beside mine. At 2 years old, she was already showing signs of her mother's technical aptitude, stacking her blocks in patterns and sequences. The morning's Detroit Business Journal sat on my desk. Patterson Industries reports record growth under new leadership. The article highlighted our successful expansion into cybersecurity and international markets, with our Singapore office exceeding all projections. My phone buzzed with a message from Jessica, my lawyer. Noah's final appeal denied. Full custody remains with you. His prison sentence starts next month. I set the phone aside, turning my attention to more important matters. Our development team was putting the finishing touches on a revolutionary banking security system, and I had a board meeting to prepare for. Ms. Kennedy, my assistant called from the doorway. The new tech team from Singapore is ready for their video conference. Thank you, Evelyn, I smiled at the irony. This was the same conference system that had exposed Noah and Kate's deception a year ago. Now it was being used to expand the company globally. Jamie looked up from her blocks, waving at the familiar faces appearing on screen. These were the people who mattered now. My team, my daughter, our future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward and building something better than what you lost. The day Noah reported to prison, I was giving the keynote speech at Detroit's Women in Technology Summit. Standing at the podium, I looked out at the crowd of aspiring female tech leaders, many of them recent hires at Patterson Industries. Success isn't built on shortcuts or schemes, I told them, thinking of how differently things had turned out from what Noah and Kate had planned. It's built on innovation, integrity, and the courage to move forward when others try to hold you back. After the speech, while answering questions from young women eager to follow in my footsteps, I received a final update from Robert. Kate had been sentenced to 12 years for corporate espionage and fraud. The money she'd stolen was long gone, spent on luxury purchases in various tropical locations before her arrest. That evening, as I picked up Jamie from Patricia's house, my former mother-in-law hugged me tightly. "You've done more for the Patterson name than Noah ever did," she said, watching Jamie show off her new coding game on her tablet. "You turned our scandal into success." Driving home to our new house in the historic district, I thought about the past year. Patterson Industries had doubled in value under my leadership. Our cybersecurity division was revolutionizing the industry. And Jamie was growing up in an environment that valued integrity over appearances. Sometimes life's biggest betrayals lead to its greatest opportunities. You just have to be strong enough to walk through the fire and wise enough to build something better from the ashes. "Don't you dare bring that up right now," Josh snapped at me over breakfast, his hand tightening around his coffee mug. "I just think we should wait a few more years before trying for a baby." The words hit me like a physical blow, and I fought back tears as I stared at my untouched plate. "My name is Julie, and I'm 33 years old. I work as an elementary school teacher in Austin, Texas. For the past 2 years, I've been living what I thought was just an unfortunate struggle to conceive, but I recently discovered it was all a lie. I'd been obsessively tracking my cycle, changing my diet, and going to every fertility specialist in the city. Each negative pregnancy test felt like another failure, and I blamed myself completely. Was I too stressed? Was I eating the wrong foods? Was there something fundamentally wrong with me? Josh would hold me while I cried, stroking my hair and telling me it would happen when the time was right. That morning's argument about children wasn't our first, but something in Josh's reaction seemed different. He'd been getting more defensive lately, and I couldn't understand why. Still upset from our fight, I decided to tackle the mess in our attic that afternoon while he was at work. The doctor had suggested staying busy to manage my anxiety, and I desperately needed the distraction. I was going through old boxes when I found it, a manila folder stuffed inside a dusty storage container marked 2022 tax docs. I almost set it aside, but Josh's name caught my eye. As I pulled out the document, my hands started trembling. The letterhead was from Austin Medical Center, dated March 15th, 2022, exactly 8 months before our wedding. "This letter confirms your vasectomy procedure has been successfully completed." The paper crumpled in my shaking hands as 2 years of guilt, self-blame, and heartache transformed into something else entirely. Josh had known. Through every doctor's appointment, every negative test, every tear-filled night, he had known it was impossible. He had watched me tear myself apart emotionally and physically, all while keeping his secret. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't just anger, it was ice-cold fury. I carefully smoothed out the paper and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, and started to plan my next move. Josh had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn exactly what his deception would cost him. I sat at our kitchen table, staring into my tea as my mind raced. The version of my husband I thought I knew was crumbling away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. How many times had he watched me cry myself to sleep? How many times had he held my hand during yet another disappointing doctor's appointment? All while knowing that he was the reason we couldn't conceive. My phone buzzed. A text from Josh. About this morning? I'm sorry I snapped. Let's talk when I get home. Love you. My hands shook as I read his message. Even now, he was keeping up the act. I thought about all the money we'd spent on fertility treatments. Treatments he knew would never work. The specialists, the supplements, the endless tests. I'd even started seeing a therapist to deal with what I thought was my failure to conceive. Going through my phone's camera roll, I found a photo from 6 months ago. Josh and me at my sister Rachel's baby shower. I remembered breaking down in the bathroom that day, and Josh had comforted me saying, "Our time will come, honey. We just need to be patient." The memory made me feel physically sick. I opened my banking app and started calculating. Between medical bills, fertility treatments, and specialists, we'd spent over $15,000 in the past 2 years. Money that could have gone toward a house down payment, or travel, or literally anything else. Instead, it had been wasted on a lie. But confronting him immediately would be a mistake. Josh was clever. He'd manipulated me for years, letting me believe I was the problem. If I showed my hand too soon, he'd find a way to twist this around. Maybe even make me doubt what I'd found. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed a plan. I pulled out my laptop and started researching divorce lawyers. Then I remembered Sarah, my college roommate who now worked as a financial advisor. She'd helped another friend through a messy divorce last year. I made a note to call her tomorrow. Josh's betrayal wasn't just about the vasectomy or the lies. It was about the years of watching me suffer, letting me blame myself, all while playing the role of the supportive husband. He'd stolen my time, my money, and my trust. But most importantly, he'd stolen my choice about my own future. Well, now I was taking that choice back. I heard Josh's car pull into the driveway around 6. Taking a deep breath, I rehearsed my composure one last time. I had already put away all evidence of my afternoon discovery, making sure everything in the attic was exactly as it had been. The house smelled like the cannelloni I'd thrown together, his favorite meal, though now the thought of cooking for him made my stomach turn. "Something smells amazing," he called out as he walked in, briefcase in hand. He came up behind me and tried to kiss my cheek, but I shifted away, pretending to need something from the cabinet. "About this morning," he started, his voice gentle. "I know you're frustrated. Maybe we could look into more natural fertility treatments. I've been reading about this holistic doctor." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Here he was, suggesting yet another dead-end treatment, knowing full well why nothing would work. Instead, I forced a smile. "Maybe you're right about waiting," I said, watching his reaction carefully. "We could take a break from trying." The relief that flashed across his face was subtle, but I caught it. "I think that would be good for us," he said, reaching for my hand. "You've been so stressed lately." Stressed. Right, because that was the problem. Not his secret vasectomy. Over dinner, I let him dominate the conversation, talking about his day at the real estate office, nodding at appropriate intervals. All I could think about was the call I'd made to Sarah while he was at work. She'd given me the name of an excellent divorce attorney and advised me to start gathering financial documents. "I was thinking," I said carefully, pushing my food around my plate, "maybe I should look for a better paying teaching position. You know, for when we do start our family." Josh smiled encouragingly. "That's a great idea, honey. You're such a wonderful teacher. Any school would be lucky to have you." The ease with which he played along made my blood boil. "I'd also need to start documenting his lies," Sarah had said. "Everything could be useful in divorce proceedings." "I might stop by the bank tomorrow," I continued. "Look into our savings options." "I can handle the finances," he said quickly, too quickly. You don't need to worry about that. But I did need to worry, because according to Sarah, Josh had been moving money between accounts for months. Small amounts, nothing obvious, but it added up. Had he been preparing for the day I discovered his secret? Or was this just another layer of his deception? I watched him eat his cannelloni, chatting about his plans for the weekend, and felt something harden inside me. He thought he had everything under control. He thought he could keep manipulating me forever. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I called in sick to work. As soon as Josh left for the office, I drove to meet with Patricia Walker, the divorce attorney Sarah had recommended. Her office was in downtown Austin, in one of those sleek high-rises that made me feel underdressed just walking through the lobby. Your friend Sarah filled me in on the basics, Patricia said, gesturing for me to sit. She was maybe in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper blazer. But I need to hear everything from you. I pulled out the manila folder I'd photographed in the attic. As I recounted the past 2 years, the fertility treatments, the deception, the financial irregularities Sarah had noticed, Patricia took detailed notes. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten when I mentioned the dates. He had the vasectomy before your wedding, she said, and never disclosed it? I nodded, fighting back tears. He watched me go through all those treatments, knowing. That's more than just deception, Patricia interrupted, her voice firm. He allowed you to spend substantial amounts on medical procedures he knew couldn't work. There's a strong case for financial fraud here. She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. First, we need to secure your finances. Open a new account at a different bank, one he's never used. Start moving small amounts of money. Nothing that would raise red flags. What about the vasectomy paperwork? I asked. Should I take it? Patricia shook her head. Don't remove anything from the house yet. We'll subpoena those records directly from the medical center. More importantly, we need to document any new lies. Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings, which works in our favor. My hands were shaking as I took notes. Everything felt surreal, like I was planning a military operation instead of dismantling my marriage. One more thing, Patricia added, her expression softening slightly. Don't confront him yet. Men like your husband, they're good at manipulation. If he realizes you know, he'll start covering his tracks. I left Patricia's office with a detailed action plan and a strange sense of calm. My first stop was the bank, where I opened a new account and applied for a credit card in just my name. Then I visited my doctor's office to get copies of all my fertility treatment records, proof of the thousands we'd spent on procedures Josh knew were pointless. When I got home, I had a text from Josh. Heard you were sick? Want me to pick up soup on my way home? I stared at his message, remembering all the times he'd played the caring husband. The morning sickness remedies he'd bought me when I thought I might be pregnant. The foot rubs after disappointing doctor's appointments. The shoulder to cry on when every test came back negative. That would be nice, I texted back, adding a heart emoji for good measure. Two could play at this game of pretend. I spent the rest of the afternoon going through our files, photographing everything that might be important. Bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts. I found a drawer full of real estate documents, properties I'd never heard of. Josh had been busy with more than just his vasectomy secret. Just wait, I whispered to myself, carefully replacing each file. Just wait. The following week was an exercise in self-control. Every morning I'd kiss Josh goodbye as if nothing had changed. Every evening I'd listen to his stories about work, nodding and smiling while secretly documenting everything. The voice recorder app on my phone became my constant companion. Sarah's investigation into our finances revealed more than just Josh's minor money movements. There were 2 investment properties I'd never known about, purchased the year before our wedding. The down payments came from an account I didn't have access to. When I mentioned this to Patricia, she immediately filed for additional financial discovery. Your husband's been planning this for a while, she said during our follow-up meeting. These properties, the vasectomy, the separate accounts, it's a pattern of deliberate deception. But the real shock came when I received a call from Dr. Martinez, my fertility specialist. I'd asked her office to send over my complete medical records, but there was a problem. "Mrs. Anderson, I noticed something unusual while reviewing your file," she said, her voice careful. "Your husband called our office several times requesting we delay certain treatments. He said you were having anxiety about the procedures and needed more time." My hand tightened around the phone. "He what?" "He specifically asked us to push back your hormone therapy appointments, said you weren't emotionally ready." She paused. "Given what we know now, I felt you should be aware." I thanked her, hung up, and barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Josh hadn't just passively watched me suffer. He'd actively interfered with my treatment. All those rescheduled appointments I'd blamed on the clinic's busy schedule had been his doing. That evening, Josh brought home takeout from my favorite Thai place. "Thought you could use a treat," he said, setting up dinner. "You've seemed a bit down lately." I forced myself to smile, thinking of Dr. Martinez's revelation. "Just tired from work," I replied, watching him serve the food. "Actually, I've been thinking about taking a break from teaching. Maybe look into other opportunities." His head snapped up. "What kind of opportunities?" "I don't know yet. Something different." I shrugged, noting how his shoulders tensed. "Maybe real estate. You always make it sound so interesting." "Teaching is your passion," he said quickly, "and the stability is important for when we start our family." The casual way he said it, "when we start our family," made my blood boil. But I kept my voice light. "You're probably right. It was just a thought." Later, after Josh fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and checked his phone. Patricia had warned me not to do anything that could compromise our case, but I needed to know. His recent calls showed multiple conversations with a number I didn't recognize. I wrote it down, then carefully replaced his phone. The next day, Sarah ran the number through her financial investigator contacts. It belonged to a divorce attorney in Houston. Josh had called them 6 times in the past month, so he was planning his own exit strategy. Fine, 2 could prepare for war. The next revelation came from an unexpected source. I was picking up coffee at our usual spot when Maria, the barista who had worked there throughout my fertility struggles, pulled me aside. "I've been wanting to tell you something," she said, glancing around nervously. "Your husband comes here sometimes with a woman. I thought maybe it was work-related, but—" My heart stuttered. "But what?" "Last week I overheard them talking about property investments and divorce lawyers. She was saying something about making sure you didn't find out about certain accounts before everything was in place." Maria touched my arm. "I know it's not my place, but after seeing you go through so much—" I thanked her and sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel. Sarah had mentioned a woman's name appearing on some of the property documents, Rebecca Wilson, a fellow real estate agent at Josh's firm. Now it all made sense. That afternoon, I met with Patricia again. "We need to move faster," I said, showing her the notes I'd gathered. "He's planning something with his colleague." Patricia nodded, reviewing the information. "Actually, this works in our favor. We've gathered enough evidence of financial misconduct to file for emergency orders. We can freeze the accounts he's been hiding." "What about the vasectomy evidence?" "The medical center confirmed the procedure date, 8 months before your wedding, just as you discovered." She leaned forward. "Julie, we have him on multiple fronts: financial fraud, medical manipulation, and marital deception. The question is, how do you want to proceed?" I took a deep breath. I want him to feel as helpless as I did. I want him to understand what it's like to have everything pulled out from under him. "Then let's plan this carefully. The element of surprise is crucial." That evening, Josh was working late again, probably with Rebecca. I used the time to put the final touches on my escape plan. I'd already secured a small apartment, paid for in cash through a friend of Sarah's. I had copies of all important documents and records of every lie he'd told over the past 2 years. The next morning, Josh was especially attentive, making breakfast and asking about my plans for the day. Actually, I said, maintaining my best innocent expression, I was thinking about looking into those natural fertility treatments you mentioned. Maybe you could come with me to the consultation? The panic that flashed across his face was almost comical. Oh, honey, work is really busy right now with this new development project. The one with Rebecca Wilson? I asked casually, watching him freeze. You've been putting in a lot of hours on that. It's a complicated deal, he said carefully. Lots of moving parts. I bet there were. That night I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. Tomorrow all the pieces would be in place. Patricia was ready with the court filings. Sarah had documented every hidden account and suspicious transaction. Even Dr. Martinez had provided a detailed statement about Josh's interference with my treatments. Soon, he would understand exactly what it felt like to have your whole world exposed as a lie. I chose Sunday morning for the confrontation. Josh was sitting at our kitchen table drinking coffee and checking his phone, completely unaware that his carefully constructed world was about to implode. Hey, I found something interesting in the attic, I said, placing the vasectomy paperwork on the table. Want to explain this? The color drained from his face. His coffee cup clattered against the saucer as he reached for the document with trembling hands. Julie, I can explain. Explain what? How you had a vasectomy 8 months before our wedding, or how you watched me blame myself for 2 years while knowing it was physically impossible for me to get pregnant. He stood up, desperation replacing shock. I was going to tell you. When? I cut him off. After how many more fertility treatments? After how many more nights of watching me cry myself to sleep? My voice was steady, even as rage coursed through me. Or were you waiting until you and Rebecca finalized your exit strategy? His head snapped up at Rebecca's name. How did you? I know everything, Josh. The hidden properties, the secret accounts, the calls to the divorce attorney in Houston. While you were playing your games, I was building a case. A case? His voice cracked. Check your email. Our lawyers can handle the communication from now on. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and the accounts you've been hiding? They're frozen. Good luck explaining those to the judge. Josh scrambled after me as I walked toward the door, his composure completely shattered. You can't do this to me. Those properties, those accounts, they're mine. Actually, I turned to face him, according to Texas marriage laws, they're marital assets you illegally concealed. Patricia says the judge will be very interested in that, along with the evidence of your medical deception. His face contorted with anger. You went through my private medical records? The accusation was so hypocritical I almost laughed. Like how you called Dr. Martinez's office to delay my fertility treatments, or how you and Rebecca have been planning your own divorce strategy. That's different, he started, but I cut him off. You're right. It is different. Because while you were destroying my trust and watching me suffer, I was gathering evidence. Every lie, every hidden account, every manipulative action. It's all documented. His phone started buzzing. From his expression, I knew he was receiving the legal notifications about the frozen accounts. He stared at the screen, face growing paler. I trusted you, I said quietly. I loved you. And you let me think there was something wrong with me while knowing the truth the whole time. Julie, please, we can work this out, he begged, his voice cracking. I'll explain everything. I picked up my pre-packed bag from behind the door. You can explain it to the judge. I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing why you spent 2 years watching your wife undergo fertility treatments after getting a secret vasectomy. As I walked out, I heard him collapse into a chair, his world crumbling just like mine had in that attic.